standards, power generation, and natural resources policy does not appear compatible with the community-based energy anti-poverty programs. 4, the governor's stated goals of increased efficiency and coordination of state energy policy does not require the elimination of CSD and does not apply to CSD's energy programs as they are federally mandated, subject to federal regulations, and subject to local control both in the service delivery and in the planning processes. 5, the proposal appears to be in conflict with state and federal laws and regulations governing where these programs are to be housed, how the funds are to be managed, and will require federal approval. 6, and final point, the dismantling of this effective and efficient department is unnecessary, counterproductive, and would needlessly leave low-income Californians without CSD's unique federally funded safety net that has been solely focused on assisting low-income Californians out of poverty since 1964. An added point, and my compatriots here who are from throughout the state would be that one of the major concerns that we have, which I think separates our willingness from earlier discussions with the governor's office, Mr. Maurer himself, and our willingness to forestall the implementation of this program is that in reading through the bill, there's a major concern that in this highly charged partisan department that this will become a political process rather than a community-based distribution of services and service delivery. And in that, right now, the last thing we need to do is dismantle programs which are highly effective and working well in our communities and turn them into a political folly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mr. Chair, I'm well aware of the time, so my comments will be brief. My name is Tom Tenorio. I'm with the Community Action Agency of Butte County, but I'm actually here as president of the statewide CalNEVA Association, for over 40 years of members who represent most of California's counties who have been engaged elements of effective community development anti-poverty strategies. Our position is the same as last year in that this bill does not need the action proposed related to CSD. The concern over the bifurcation issue is certainly appreciated. However, we continue to be concerned that CSD has no place in regulatory policy or a planning unit. We hold that the bill holds only potential for a diminished focus on poverty reduction, and that the synergy created in the program cited by the chair that's created by the CSD administration, while needed always, is especially needed now in this fiscally challenged environment. The transition of the programs from CSD to the proposed DOE will result in a higher cost to the state because of the cap on administration that the CSD grant dollars must adhere to. And so certainly that's not going to be a real easy sell in this budget crisis that we're going through. So limiting CSD, transferring its programs will slow down program implementation, service delivery, and the general decision-making process through that introduction of the new layer of bureaucracy within the new department. And this is in conflict with the governor's stated desire to reduce inefficiency and the streamlining of government. So we urge support of the chair's amendments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other testimony in opposition?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Patricia Nichols, and I represent the Community Action Agency in San Bernardino County. Also, other providers that speak in support of the chairman's recommendation for amendments would be the Riverside Community Action Agency, Los Angeles County, and San Diego County, and Orange County. Our belief is that as a provider of these programs, as was cited by the state CSD staff, our agency operates not only the LIHEAP program, the Weatherization Assistance Program, but also the lead abatement program. And the ability to leverage these programs is critical. It's much more than an energy conservation program. We're really here about providing human services. Our agency's been in existence for over 45 years, and it's much more than just going into a home and performing energy education measures. This program really is about human services, and it deserves to stay within a department that has proven to be efficient, that has the ability to well coordinate these services and leverage these dollars to serve the poor and have a greater impact. I am in strong support of the chairman's recommendation that the amendment be made to this legislation to pull out any reference of eliminating the State Department of Community Service and Development.
Thank you very much. We've had 3 speakers go into more detail, so I'm going to have to ask the rest to just identify yourselves and let us know your position. Thank you.
Good evening. I think it is officially evening. Oscar Chavez, Executive Director, Community Action Partnership, in support of the Chairman's amendment.
Thank you.
Shelley Hance, Amador Tuolumne, Community Action Agency, support of the Chair's amendment. Arlene Novotny, Association of California Community and Services, Energy Services, in favor of the chairman's amendment.
Joan Graham, Community Resource Project, in favor of the chair's amendment.
Thank you.
Melissa Martin, Association of Southern California Forum, in favor of the chairman's amendment.
Brenda Callahan Johnson, CEO of the Merced County Community Action Agency, in favor of the chairman's amendment.
Maria Juarez, Community Action Partnership of Riverside County, in favor of the chair's amendment.
Tim Reese, California Nevada Community Action Partnership State Association, in favor of the chair's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Is that all our testimony? If so, where are we at?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to introduce myself as Mike Lyons, who supports the chair's amendment.
Okay, I think we got an amendment on our hands here. So.
May I move the bill, Mr. Chair?
As amended?
As amended?
Okay. Was it already moved? Okay, with Mr. Valines' acceptance of the amendment, do you include the amendment?
Yes.
Okay. And we're clear on.
Yeah, it's taking
Okay.
CSD transfer.
Okay. We have clarity. Any further discussion, questions? If not, we have, we'll allow you to close here. Yes.
In terms of amendments, too, we've got one technical tweak that the Energy Commission has submitted, too, if I could submit that to Lawrence. It just changes from 2010, 2011. We needed an updated date. So.
Okay. We'll accept that as well.
Thank you.
There's no further discussion. Call the roll, please.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore. Aye. Gilmore, aye. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill. Aye. Hill, aye. Huffman. Knight. Mr. Knight, aye.
That's only
Logue.
Right.
Logue, aye. Skinner. 1, 2, 3, 4. The bill's out.
That bill is out. Thank you very much, Mr.
Guys,
Valines.
thank
Mr. Blakesley.
There he goes. Thank you,
Yeah. Unless there's any controversy with this bill, I'd be happy to take a motion in a second and then ask the author
Got a
how
motion.
much. There's a motion?
Yes, motion.
Is there a second for Mr.
I will
Blakesley's
vote
bill?
no if you guys can.
And moved and seconded, I'll allow you to. Oh, we have amendments. Okay, that's right.
We have-
That's right. We have amendments. So the motion is with the amendments. Okay.
I'd be happy to present. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to present AB 2299, which seeks to better equip the California Air Resources Board with thoroughly vetted information so that its decisions can be as effective as possible. In particular, to be sure that the California Air Resources Board understands the impacts of its decisions in 3 key areas. How those decisions affect other regulatory goals the state of California may have. A second, how they could potentially impact in-state jobs. And, of course, how they can affect state revenues, whether they be for the general fund or for the special fund. The legislation is modeled after SB 1320 by Byron Scher, which establishes a peer review process. And we won't go through the details.
Please.
I can see from your expression. We will instead go directly to a couple of amendments that we would like to support.
We do have a motion, right, with amendments, right?
That specifically we relate, that we restrict the analysis to the 3 subjects that have been enumerated, so it's not expansive beyond those 3 topics. And second, that we limit the number of peer reviews to a single peer review per rulemaking to ensure it cannot be used as a tool for obstruction.
Okay. It's been moved, seconded. Witnesses in favor, briefly.
Robert Callahan, California Chamber of Commerce, in strong support.
She's running up. I like that.
CMTA in support.
Okay, any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition?
More of a comment. Nidhi Bautista with Coalition for Clean Air. We appreciate the authors' embracing of the amendments. We did want to call in the concern on the discretion of ARB to review any of these requests. That part has not been clarified in the language, and we would like to see that clarified. Thank you.
And I think that may have been an oversight from the previous bill where we dropped the language that specifically had I believe it was the president of the UC system being involved in trying to do the selection process. We'd be happy to add that back into the bill. I think that's dropping was an oversight, not intentional.
Okay. Call the roll.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore. Aye. Gilmore, aye. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill. Huffman. Knight. Knight, aye. Logue. Logue, aye. Skinner. That bill's out.
Bill's out.
And I'd like to thank the chair for his patience. This is the third time we've taken a run at this legislation, and good
Well,
to your
you're a
word.
persistent dude.
Good to your word. You said if I kept at it, we'd find a way. So thank you very much.
Sure. Excuse me, persistent member. Okay, Mr. Knight, I think, is the next member up, and I have. Oh, you have another one. I'm sorry, Mr. Blakeslee.
I'll make this brief. AB 2739 directs the administrator of the Office of Spill Prevention and Response to assess the threat of a potential oil spill from a tanker sunk during World War II. The SS Montebello was sunk off the coast of California December 23, 1941, by a Japanese submarine in the outbreak of World War II.
Mr. Chair, I move the bill.
Do I have a second for Mr. Blakeslee's bill? Moved and seconded. As amended.
As amended, yes. Thank you, and I also
And I think
wanted
the purpose of Mr. DeLeon's motion is to encourage you to give us a brief summary.
And a brief summary is I'm happy to accept those amendments. I think the Republicans also want to ensure the language spoke to working with the federal government to ensure their participation. And if the chair is comfortable with that, I'd be happy to accept that amendment as well.
Okay, well, can you explain that a little bit more clearly?
Certainly. There's the expectation that as we move forward, we need to work with the Coast Guard and National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, given that they have a role that is in federal waters. We want to be sure that to the degree there's an opportunity to capture federal monies, we do so.
Okay, sounds good. We'll accept that. Moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Chesbro.
Oh, I didn't ask for witnesses. Is there any opposition or support? No. Okay. Now call the roll.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore. Gilmore, aye. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill. Huffman. Knight. Knight, aye. Logue. Logue, aye. Skinner.
That bill is out.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
So now Mr. Knight is up for, I believe, reconsideration vote, and he's offered to waive presentation. He'll be very popular with you this evening, Mr. De Leon. At least, maybe not the content, but at least the willingness to waive presentation. So is there a motion? Okay. This is AB 2165. It's been moved and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Chesbro.
No.
Chesbro, no. Gilmore. Gilmore, aye. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, no. Hill. Huffman. Knight. Knight, aye. Logue. Logue, aye. Skinner.
That's on call. I believe that we have two bills for Mr. Logue, who would be next. Beginning with item 14, AB 2301. Yeah, so we've reviewed the amendments and they're fine. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to start off by accepting all suggested committee amendments. I would also like to thank the committee staff for their hard work. They did a fantastic job on this bill.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the bill as proposed with
Bill's
amendments.
moved as amended. Is there a second? Okay, that's a hint.
Thank you. In the sake of saving time, I think I'll stop right now.
Okay, we'll see if questions arise as a result of the witnesses. So, witnesses in favor?
Cindy Hillary with the Regional Council of Rural Counties. We're the sponsor and obviously in support of this bill. And we also wanted to thank committee staff deeply for the time and the effort that they put into getting us here. Obviously, committee amendments accepted and their committee suggested amendments accepted. The proposed amendment F, we were hoping that we could talk to you, Mr. Chair, about in a little bit more detail as that language, if that language were to move, just to try to compile your concerns and our concerns, but obviously move it as proposed today.
Great.
Thank you.
Yep.
Reed Addis on behalf of MRCA. We are actually in support given the amendments. We do have some concerns and would like to continue working on some criteria to put in the bill, but we believe it's going in the right direction now, so in support.
Well, I would encourage the author to continue to work with these organizations. Other testimony in support?
Thank you.
Opposition or whatever variation on that there may be, since it's been a work in progress with some changes?
Mr. Chairman and members, Vern Gehring with the California Native Plant Society. We are in opposition to the bill, and we remain in opposition with the amendments, although the amendments certainly improve the bill, and we really appreciate the committee staff working on those issues. Our concern is that the bill seems to be based on a simplistic and false notion that more vegetation clearing equals more fire protection, and we don't think there's any real evidence that suggests that more intensive or expansive clearing necessarily reduces the spread of fires. Our question is really, even remaining, is why only state property? Certainly the vegetation on state property is no more of a threat to property than any other vegetation, and all parcels of property, as far as I know, have adjacent property owners that surround their property. So you have federal lands, you have private lands that could have extensive vegetation on them too, and clearing in one area certainly is not going to make a marked impact one way or another on improving the situation. From our experience and reports we get in the field is that far too many insurance companies and local fire districts needlessly and even in many cases recklessly push homeowners to clear a maximum amount of space. And we're concerned, even with the amendments, will a state agency be able to resist excessive demands of insurers without jeopardizing homeowners' coverage and becoming, in the eyes of the public, the problem? We are still opposed to the bill, although we realize it's an improvement going forward, and we'll work with the committee and with the author if it proceeds.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Michael Endicott with Sierra Club California. We'll try to keep it short, but we still remain opposed. We really appreciate the amendments that the author is taking and the sponsors, and we will try to work with them and the committee. We think that there needs to be much more definition on this. There are values to the plants, not just as to their flammability, but these, the state lands own those as part of trust for us, the people. We're the owners of that, and we should be on equal footing with other private landowners that surround a given place. So you need to really make sure that this is written correctly, but we think that these are major and significant amendments, and we'll keep working with the author, but we're still opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tina Andolini of the Planning and Conservation League. We remain opposed, even with the amendments, but we appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, significant progress has been made in terms of protecting the public's interest in the public lands beyond just the fire protection issue, so hopefully we'll continue to proceed. I am in support of the bill. It's been moved and seconded, I do believe, as amended. Call the roll, please.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore. Aye. Gilmore, aye. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill. Aye. Hill, aye. Huffman. Knight. Logue.
Aye.
Logue, aye. Skinner.
That bill is out. I believe the next person up is Mr. Hill. Oh, you have another bill. I keep trying to skip over you, folks. So sorry. Yes. Mr. Logue, you have AB 2353.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. AB 2353 would require that all existing conservancies submit.
Move the bill.
And moved as amended. Is that correct? Amended? Yep.
Does that mean you want me to be quiet?
It means you, well, you can, you got about 30
I think
seconds.
that was your closing remarks.
That's my closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay. Any testimony in favor? Any testimony in opposition? We have a motion and a second for this bill as amended. Please call the roll.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Huffman. Knight. Logue.
Aye.
Logue, aye. Skinner. Aye. Skinner, aye. The bill's out.
That bill is out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, AB 1981, which is item 5. Mr. Hill has taken amendments, I believe.
Yeah. We have, Mr. Chair, and I would like to begin by thanking the chair and the committee consultant for their diligent work, and I mean diligent work and willingness to work with me on the issue. I'm also happy to accept the committee's amendments on the date removal on that. AB 1981 does not seek to change the amount of revenue the state receives from the California Tire Recycling Act. In fact, I'm working with the Board of Equalization to ensure that this bill is revenue neutral. This bill seeks to change how the tire fee is collected from new dealers. AB 1981 would only apply to new dealers and would require a $9.50 vehicle fee to be assessed instead of a per tire fee. A per vehicle fee would only be assessed on new vehicles. This change in law is needed to ensure the proper collection of this fee. As dealers automate the procedures, the collection of the fee has been increasingly problematic. Since only new tires are subject to the fee, dealers must determine whether a new vehicle has a spare tire, doesn't have a spare tire. If it's on used vehicles, whether new tires were added to the vehicle prior to sale. Dealers have faced significant problems in keeping track of the number of new tires installed on used vehicles and charging customers accordingly. This bill will make it easier for new car dealers to collect tire fees. Ensuring proper collection of the fee guarantees that California continues to properly dispose and handle its waste tires. With me today is Brian Moss with the New Car Dealers Association in support.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the bill.
As amended?
As amended.
Okay. I guess I'll second it. Mr. Moss.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Brian Moss with the California New Car Dealers Association. I think Mr. Hill eloquently summarized the issue. We simply want to go from a per tire fee collection mode to a per vehicle fee collection mode. We think that'll make it easier for us and ultimately easier for the Board of Equalization to administer, and we urge your support.
The problem of identifying what the fee is still open, because is it not because of the and there's a question. I assume we're going to hear some testimony about this. Maybe jumping the gun here, but relative to the change in the economy, where we are right now in terms of the ratio of new cars to used cars versus where it'll be next year or 5 years from now.
You certainly have our commitment, Mr. Chairman, that we are assuring you that we want this bill to be revenue neutral. We don't want the state to lose money. We don't want to make it a revenue enhancer in any significant way. We want to try and hit the sweet spot as best we can. We think we're close with $9.50, but we're going to let the smart minds and the fiscal committees and the Department of Finance tell us whether we hit the nail on the head, and we'll make adjustments accordingly. But it is our strong desire to keep things revenue neutral.
Okay, thank you. Any other witnesses in favor? Witnesses against? Mr. Lavelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. Terry Lavelle with the California Tire Dealers Association. Our job as the representative of the tire dealers is to ensure that the Waste Management Board, actually Cal Recycle now, properly spends its tire fee money on tire programs, including tire recycling programs, developing this infrastructure to divert tires from the landfill. Plus, we want to make sure that everybody that sells a new tire, whether it's on a car or off a car, has to pay the tire fee. It's simple as that. They have to pay the tire fee to take care of that tire at the end of its life. We have some fiscal problems, of course, with the bill concerning the cost to the BOE of collecting that tire fee, which will be passed on to the Cal Recycle and the Tire Fund, and therefore reduce the ability of the Cal Recycle to promote its tire recycling programs. Secondly, we have concerns about this shifting ratio of whereby new car buyers subsidize the cost of the tires for used car buyers. Even if the fiscal committees come up with some degree of proper approximation of how much more a new car buyer will have to pay, the shifting sands of the ratio are going to change from year to year. Do we really want to put that in statute now and come back again a year from now or 2 years from now when the shifting sands of new cars to used cars has changed? I think it's a real bad government policy. And I think that there should be some consideration of some other way that the new car dealers could look at it. And finally, just as a consideration, is that we always believe that everybody, used car dealers that don't sell new cars, have to assess how many tires they put on their cars when they sell them. They put that money to BOE, and that money goes to the Tire Recycling Fund. New car dealers should be able to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition? Expressions of concern, et cetera? Okay. Well, that I do think that remains a problem, but I think that's something that the Fiscal Committee and Department of Finance can wrestle with. I'm prepared to support the bill as amended. So why don't we call the roll?
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Huffman. Knight. Logue. Logue, aye. Skinner. Skinner, aye. Bill's out.
That bill is out. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, members.
Ms. Skinner, I think you're up next. AB 1954. The year you were born, right?
Mr. Chair, members, thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the bill,
How
too.
did you know
Bill's
that?
been moved.
Anyway.
Been moved to second. Brief presentation.
Very brief. It would help us meet, it would fix a financing problem with our renewable energy projects by allowing the CPUC to make a preliminary determination about transmission cost recoverability. It would also fix a problem on the consistent and reliable de minimis amount of fossil fuel that can be used in renewable energy operations. So it allows this Energy Commission to determine what the de minimis rate should be. So I have in support of the bill Arthur Havenstock from Bright Source Energy.
Yes, we support the bill. Thank you very much, Chair and members.
You're fabulous.
Erin Niemelo representing the Large Scale Solar Association in support of the bill.
You're fabulous, too. Any other witnesses in favor? Any witnesses against? If not, call the roll, please.
In my close, I would say that UNC voted 14-0 on the bill. Ask for your aye
we
vote.
don't have 14 members, but we'll see what we can do.
Well, it was the zero part that was important.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill. Hill, aye. Huffman. Huffman, aye. Knight. Logue. Logue, aye. Skinner.
Aye.
Skinner, aye.
That bill's out. Mr. Huffman. AB 1873, item 3.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to begin by taking the committee's amendments. This is a pretty straightforward bill with no opposition that I know of.
Moved and amended. Moved as amended and seconded. Brief presentation.
Bottom line, Mr. Chair, is we're trying to create some tools to help grow these PACE programs. PACE is an acronym. We got to get a new one because it now includes water efficiency too. But property assessed clean energy and water efficiency. Sonoma County, of course, is the poster child for all of the multiple benefits of these programs. They're creating jobs. They're getting work done that lowers utility bills, reduces water and energy use, and what we're doing in this bill right now is just authorizing that if there is an auction under AB 32, those revenues could be used, not fee or penalty revenues as the committee amendments will clarify, but those auction revenues could be used to buy these PACE bonds. I'm going to keep working creatively with the sponsor and others to see if we can identify some other public funding sources to help grow these programs, but this is, as the bill stands right now, I think pretty simple, and I'll just request your aye vote.
Okay. Witnesses in favor.
Mr. Chairman, other members, Paul Yoder on behalf of the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Jennifer West on behalf of Sonoma County Water Agency. This is an important program for water conservation, and we support it and urge your support.
Okay, thank you. Any other witnesses in favor?
Morgan Velarde, Environment California. We support.
Okay, any witnesses in opposition? Hearing none, call the roll, please. Oh, yes. Ms. Skinner.
Is this bill being amended in committee?
Yes.
And is it removing the exclusion of the charter city programs?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I should have mentioned that as one of the amendments. I apologize.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, let me add one thing, too. I support Mr. Huffman. I support your measure in concept. I do have some concerns with regards to the language. I do want to say that I reserve my right for my vote when it gets to the floor. I want to work with you as well as the staff and the sponsor of this bill with regards to the source of the funding of this measure specifically.
Happy to work with you.
Okay. Now call the roll.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore. Gilmore, no. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill. Hill, aye. Huffman. Huffman, aye. Knight. Logue. Logue, no. Skinner. Skinner, aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bill.
2139 and 2360. Probably the 2360 probably go faster. Hopefully they'll both go fast, given what we've been doing, but...
Item 18, AB 2360. You may open, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. Existing law authorizes money in the Forest Resource Improvement Fund, or FRIF, to be spent upon appropriation by the legislature for the cost of operations associated with the management of demonstration state forests by the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection.
Second.
We have a motion to move the bill.
Okay. And I will proceed as desired by the committee members. If people are all satisfied, I'll just defer to move right to witnesses.
Satisfied.
Okay.
Hi, this is Steve McLean, Chief of Legislation for CAL FIRE, and late in the day, I'll just respectfully request your aye vote. Thank you.
We already did that. Russ Henley, CAL FIRE Assistant Deputy Director for Resource Protection and Improvement. Likewise, would request your support of this bill. Thank you.
Joe Leszewski with California Relief and our network members of urban forestry organizations across the state request your aye vote.
Chuck Mills with the California Council of Land Trusts. Also respectfully request your aye vote.
I'm Bill Kai, California Licensed Foresters Association. It's a good bill, and we support it.
Anthony Thomas, California Forestry Association. Think it's a very good piece of policy. Would urge your aye vote.
Okay, any in opposition? Seeing none, hearing none. Any questions or comments from the committee? We have a motion and a second. We need a second. We have a second from Mr. De Leon. Call the roll, please.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore.
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Brownlee. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill. Hill, aye. Huffman. Huffman, aye. Knight. Knight, aye. Logue. Logue, aye. Skinner. Skinner, aye.
Bill is out.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to be presenting AB 2139, which takes on the big issue of reducing the cost of waste in our society by increasing the responsibility of those who produce the material that ends up in our landfills. The purpose is to put in place tools needed to move us towards a higher percentage of recycling with a new sense of shared responsibility. The bill holds manufacturers more responsible for the products they produce. It creates a framework. I talked earlier when I was presenting the Speaker's bill about a framework, and we're trying to work towards that approach. It's been politically difficult to achieve, but we are working between the various authors of material bills like this one, such as the Speaker's as well, to create a common framework.
We have a motion and a second to move the bill.
The one thing I want to tell you that I don't think is in the amendments is that I am looking at the list of materials that this bill covers, and I'm going to be taking pesticides out and possibly adding some other few other products. Of course, as the chair, I'll demand it back if I think it's way out of line with what we've passed out today. But I ask your support in order to keep this bill moving forward and moving, I hope, ultimately towards a framework comparable to what we've done with green chemistry for the entire waste stream in the future.
Okay, those in support of the bill?
Thank you. I'm Heidi Sanborn with the California Product Stewardship Council, and we represent local governments, businesses, and individuals throughout California that supports the shift to a more free market approach for our product waste management system. Matter of fact, Butte County, San Bernardino, LA, San Mateo have all supported this concept of product stewardship, and our most recent addition was last week. The San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments adopted to support a resolution in support of the framework. I can skip most of my notes. I think you've heard a lot today. But we really do support a free market approach to product waste management that brings competition in the private sector innovation to manage product waste. Many studies show this approach, when properly implemented, reduces the recycling costs, creates jobs in recovery and manufacturing, and reduces environmental and public health impacts. A recent study of the product stewardship programs in British Columbia, they have 8 of them, created 2,100 jobs, supported the secondary markets, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, and reduced disposal costs and long-term liability to the landfill owners. There is a reason producer responsibility policies are being implemented all over the world. They have a 20-year history. They work, and they are good for the economy, the public health, and the environment. So we urge your support of a free market approach to waste management and support this bill. Thank you.
Mr.
Josh Malone on behalf of Alameda County Waste Management Authority, the local environmental health directors, and also the California Legal Conservation Vote is one of our priorities. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, Mark Murray with Californians Against Waste in support of the bill. This is targeting problem products that are banned from disposal in landfill, asking the manufacturers to share in the responsibility for getting recycled. Urge your aye vote.
Kira Ross on behalf of the League of California Cities in support of the bill.
Tressa Wallace with Shaw Yoder Antwi here on behalf of two of our clients, the California chapters of the Solid Waste Association of North America in strong support, and the City of Santa Monica also in support.
Leslie Daniel with Sierra Club California in support.
Reed Addis on behalf of Ocean Conservancy in support.
Any others in support? Those in opposition?
Mr. Chair and members, Lori Nelson on behalf of the Consumer Specialty Products Association, and we appreciate Mr. Chesbro removing household pesticides, so that will get rid of half of my testimony, but since I represent a lot of products, I would like to mention just 2 quick points. One is, if you look at the level of government involvement in this bill, the things they want CalRecycle to look at, they're looking at the design and material content of our products, the manufacturing, packaging, end-of-life management, virgin material, water, energy use, carbon footprint, product longevity. So there's a lot of government involvement in whatever products are in or out of this bill. And secondly, I just want to read you one quick sentence, and that is, there's a department that has the ability to examine the environmental sustainability over a product's entire life, the raw material selection, manufacturing, transportation, use and end-of-life disposal or reuse and waste management. That's from Green Chemistry. They already have the authority in government to do this. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, I'm Michael Hawkins. I'm here representing CHI, the California Healthcare Institute. It's the life sciences company, biomedical and device manufacturers. They're a lot of companies that make these products, both the pharmaceutical products and the sharps. I'm here testifying on the issue of sharps in this bill. Yes. First of all, there have been a lot of allegations that there are a lot of workers that are handling these products in the waste stream and are being injured. We have challenged the people that are making those accusations to come forward with a study showing that. We don't believe that in fact, they haven't done that, and so we'd like to see what the problem is with that. The second thing this bill doesn't do is it doesn't provide for shared responsibility. The bill only targets manufacturers of certain home-generated sharps waste and does not address the other stakeholders such as distributors, retailers, patients, public health officials, cities and counties that dispose of the sharps, and the landfill operators. So we believe, as the governor has said, and I think as the author of this bill has said, it's shared responsibility. This puts the complete burden on the manufacturer of the sharp. The bill unfairly imposes the responsibility for consumer behavior on the manufacturer, something over which the manufacturers have no control. While the bill does nothing to ensure consumer compliance, it potentially subjects targeted manufacturers to unspecified daily fines if they cannot meet the 100% collection rate. Think about this. If you're a consumer and you decide you're throwing it in the trash, you're throwing it in the trash. And who's responsible? The manufacturer of that. So how are we going to assure 100% compliance? The bill also, at least inferentially, you would have to do an inventory of sharps. So even if you have a system where you're collecting the sharps, what are you supposed to do? Open those containers up to do an inventory? So we think it's virtually impossible for the producers of the product to assure total compliance, and yet this bill certainly implies that there will be 100% compliance. Doesn't do a cost-benefit analysis, and quite frankly, what will probably happen is the manufacturers of these devices will build it into the cost of the device, and so it will be one person, one stakeholder in the process, that will be the user of the product. And if that's what the legislature decides, that's what they should do. Let me summarize by saying this. We should allow significant other programs to take effect. This bill unnecessarily imposes overlapping authority for responsibilities already assigned to other state agencies to require end-of-life management for specific products as necessary. The recently enacted Green Chemistry Initiative charges the Department of Toxic Substances Control with the responsibility to, quote, to impose, quote, requirements for the manufacturer to manage the product at the end of its useful life, including recycling or responsible disposal of the consumer product. Packaging requirements are covered under the implementation of AB 32. So finally, I would say these significant existing programs should be allowed to take hold before attempting to impose yet another major mandate onto products in California, especially medical products. Thank you for listening to my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Matt Gray on behalf of Taxpayers for Improving Public Safety. We don't have an official oppose on this, but we do have a watch. We are concerned about it. In many parts, it seems to be a problem where there's a solution in search of a problem, and there are many unfleshed out portions of this bill which we're not quite sure about and need further clarification. And one of the other problems is, in the interest of fairness and objectivity, while we respect the author's request to move the bill forward, in the interest of fairness and objectivity, maybe we should hold this bill like we have done with other bills earlier today. Thank you.
Mike Rogie with California Manufacturers and Technology Association. We urge your no vote.
Maureen Higgins representing Biocom and its 500-member life sciences companies in opposition.
Randy Pollock on behalf of the Coleman Company in opposition.
Crystal Jack on behalf of the California Grocers Association in opposition. Also in opposition is Western Plant Health Association for the bill in its current form, although we're anxious to see the amendments.
Mr. Chair, I have questions, if I could.
Yes.
Thank you. And I want to support the bill today, and will. But because I know in our conversation earlier, you had some questions about shared responsibility as well, and we're willing to look at that as the bill moves forward, and I appreciate that. Of the Sharp, and I just want to get some clarity coming from local government. I don't remember that being much of a problem that we had, at least in San Mateo, in dealing with them or the hospitals, and just how big of a problem is that in local government? Do we have numbers of, and if we could kind of take that also to the landfill? I mean, there are millions of sharps a year that are disposed, hundreds of millions of sharps a year disposed, and I've not seen or heard of actual numbers and problems that people have had with those. Is that information available?
Yeah, there was actually a video, and I wish I had saved it and put it on our website, of a woman who was actually stuck by a needle on a picking line. It seems that a lot of people who use needles stick them in pop bottles, and so they're ending up on the picking line. And I've heard that there's some lines that have been having to shut down 15% of the time. Sometimes they'll have a milk jug or a pop bottle come in that's rather brittle. It can be run over by one of the trucks. The needles go everywhere on the floor. They have to stop everything. Then they have to go pick them up. They have to get all their safety gear on. But the thing is, we're seeing needles in higher volume than we've ever seen. And so some of the lines are literally, they're dodging bullets every 10, 15 minutes with these needles on the line. Matter of fact, Shasta County did a survey and found that most of their needles, a lot of them were coming in at the AB 2020 centers because people were putting them in the pop bottles. So they actually put a Sharps drop-off right there at the 2020 center because that's where they figured they were seeing the most Sharps.
Can I add, Mr. Hill, that the legislature thought it was enough of a problem to ban the Sharps from landfills. Now, obviously, there's not people standing by everybody's trash can keeping you from throwing it in the trash can. But local governments are charged with operating local household hazardous waste programs. Waste haulers are responsible for, or waste landfill managers, whether they're public agencies or private contractors, private owners, are charged with the responsibility for supposedly keeping it out, and yet there's no tools for doing that, no cost-effective tools. Many household hazardous waste programs offer a drop-off, but it's very expensive, and it's very inconvenient, and only highly motivated, responsible people who have nowhere more convenient to take it wind up utilizing those programs. And so by shared responsibility, the first definition is that our old approach of just telling local government not to do things is inadequate to solving the problem. And it's not to criticize local government, it's to say that they don't have the resources and the tools. And so trying to bring others who help to generate the problem into the process is what we're after. With regards to the earlier comment and what you and I discussed, Mr. Ruskin at the last committee at Environmental Safety and Toxics raised your question with regards to whether putting it all on the manufacturers is fair. And quite frankly, I'd like to try to find a system that shares it within the distribution system. It should be as convenient as possible. Whether if you're diabetic or somebody who needs to inject on a regular basis and you get them in the mail from a pharmacy, having a shipping it back as a methodology makes sense. If you get it from a pharmacy, you pick it up, well, it makes sense to take it back to the pharmacy. But that should involve partnerships. And I think one of the things that has happened in other jurisdictions, not in our country so far, sadly, but in British Columbia and in Europe, the industry has come in and been part of designing the programs so that they're market-driven, that there's a variety of choices, that whatever makes most sense for a particular provider. And that's what I'm after here. No doubt you can pick out individual things about this bill that are less than satisfactory, but the way for us to fix them is for the people who would be affected, the businesses that would be affected, to sit down with us and help us figure out how to design a program that works the best for them and is as flexible and market-based and free of government interference as we can make it. That would be the goal.
Before we take a roll call vote on this, Mr. Gray had mentioned in his testimony there about and I missed it, if he could return to the committee for the record and tell us which group that he's representing that has a watch on the bill, I would appreciate that.
It has what bill?
Okay. Okay. Right.
Because I missed his bill.
Oh. Really?
Yeah, he was repeating back what I had said about his bill.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
This is crazy, this place.
Very good. We'll take the roll.
Unbelievable.
Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Gilmore.
No.
Gilmore, no. Brownlee. Brownlee, aye. De Leon. De Leon, aye. Hill. Hill, aye. Huffman. Huffman, aye. Knight. Knight, no. Logue. Logue, no. Skinner. Skinner, aye.
Bill's out.
Thank you very much, members. I think that we got to let the calls, yeah.
You go ahead.
Okay, we have item number 27, AB 2719. Currently, there's 2 ayes and 3 noes. Mr. DeVore. Item 27.
It's DeVore, Assembly Bill 2719. The absent members.
Call the roll.
You want me to call all of them, or just absent members? De Leon? De Leon, no. Huffman? Huffman, no. Knight? Knight, aye. Skinner? Skinner, no. Bill fails. Fails.
Okay, that bill fails. Item 1, AB 1704. Mr. Jeffries has 2 ayes and 3 noes.
Absent members. Hill? No. Hill, no. Huffman? No. Huffman, no. Knight? Aye. Knight, aye. Skinner? No. Skinner, no. That bill fails.
That bill fails. Item 22, AB 2601, also Mr. Jeffries. Currently 2 ayes and 2 noes.
Hill? No. Hill, no. Huffman? Item 22, Assembly Bill 2601 by Mr. Jeffries. No. Huffman, no. Knight? Knight, not voting. Skinner? No. Ms. Skinner, no. Bill fails.
That bill fails. Item number 6, AB 2037, Manuel Perez. Mr. Perez. Ed currently has 2 ayes and 1 no.
Okay. Number 6?
Yes.
Item number 6, absent members. Ms. Brownlee? Aye. Ms. Brownlee, aye. Hill? Aye. Hill, aye. Huffman. Huffman, aye. Knight. Knight, no. Logue. Logue, no. Skinner. Skinner, aye. Bill's out.
That bill's out. Item 26, it's AB 2691. Mr. Hall has one aye and one no.
Item 26, do pass as amended. Brownlee? No. Brownlee, no. De Leon? No. De Leon, no. Hill? No. Hill, no. Huffman? No. Huffman, no. Knight? Aye. Knight, aye. Logue? Logue, aye. Bill fails.
That bill fails. Item 16, AB 2329. It's Mr. Ruskin. Currently has two ayes and one no.
AB 2329, absent members, Hill. Aye. Hill, aye. Huffman. Aye. Huffman, aye. Knight. No. Knight, no. Logue. No. Logue, no. Skinner. Aye. Skinner, aye. Bill's out.
That bill is out. Item 19, AB 2398, Speaker Pettis. It's got four ayes and one no.
Absent members, Mr. Hill. Aye. Mr. Hill is an aye. Huffman. Aye. Huffman, aye. Knight. Knight, no. Logue. No. Logue, no. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that bill is out.
That bill is out. Item 24, AB 2655, Mr. Eng. That's currently two ayes and zero noes, no noes.
Motion was due pass as amended. De Leon. Aye. De Leon, aye. Hill. Aye. Hill, aye. Huffman. Aye. Huffman, aye. Knight. Knight, not voting. Logue. Logue abstained. Skinner. Aye. Skinner, aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that bill's out.
Okay, that bill is out. Next, we have also by Mr. Eng, item 25, AB 2679. It's currently three ayes and one no.
Absent members, Mr. Hill. Aye. Mr. Hill is an aye. Huffman. Huffman, aye. Knight. No. Knight, no. Logue. Logue, no. Skinner. Aye. Skinner, aye. That bill's out.
That bill is out. Next, we have item 11, AB 2214, Mr. Fuentes, and it has three ayes and one no currently.
Hill.
Aye.
Hill, aye. Huffman. Aye. Huffman, aye. Knight. No. Knight, no. Logue. No. Logue, no. Skinner. Aye. Skinner, aye. That bill's out.
That bill's out. Item 21, AB 2575, Chesbro, currently has four ayes and no noes.
Trying to find 21?
Yes.
Okay. AB 2575, absent members, Mr. Huffman. Aye. Mr. Huffman's an aye. Knight. Knight, not voting. Logue. Logue, not voting. Skinner. Aye. Skinner, aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that bill's out.
That bill is up.
Yes, you are, Mr. De Leon.
Mr. Hill as well.
Yes. Yes.
Item 23 is next, AB 2611, Ma, and the current vote is three ayes and two noes.
De Leon. Aye. De Leon, aye. Hill. No. Hill, no. I'm sorry, Mr. Hill, I had already had you as a no. Huffman. No. Huffman, no. Skinner. Skinner, no. Not voting to no for Ms. Brownlee. That bill fails. That bill fails.
Thank you. Item 15, that bill fails. Item 15, AB 2313, Buchanan, currently has three ayes and no noes, and that is an amended version. I want to remind folks.
Item 15.
AB 2313.
Do pass as amended was the motion. Absent members, Ms. Brownlee. Ms. Brownlee is an aye. Mr. Huffman. Mr. Huffman is an aye. And Ms. Skinner. Ms. Skinner is an aye. That bill's out.
That bill is out. Finally, item 10, AB 2165, Mr. Knight, currently has three ayes and two noes.
Absent members, Ms. Brownlee. Ms. Brownlee is a no. Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill is a no. Mr. Huffman? Mr. Huffman is a no. And Ms. Skinner? Not voting. Ms. Skinner is a not voting. That bill failed. Okay?
Okay, thank you, everybody, for your patience. It's been a very long afternoon. And
You want to add on to the consent calendar? I think
yes, members can come and add on to bills that had already been passed out. So, but thank you, everybody, very much.